an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 9, Episode 13, Christmas Special 2015, The Husbands of River Song. In this episode, I really feel that this was probably the perfect episode to cap off our coverage with. And they lived happily ever after. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
So, hello, everybody, and welcome to the last episode of Unspoiled Doctor Who. Dry your tears and get on board as we answer some fan questions and talk about this episode. What did you think of this one? You hadn't watched it at all because you had to go and vet it.
I had watched it in that it was on the television and I was doing something else. I remember that, I've been clear about how this season didn't hold any interest for me, and then the Christmas special had River Song in it, so I was like, oh, I should watch that, but my brain was just like, who cares? And I wasn't really watching it. Mm-hmm. So I didn't remember anything about it except that River was in it. I didn't remember a single thing about the plot. I obviously, I think I was playing Candy Crush or something. It just was not paying attention.
Yeah, I feel you.
So I watched this the other night, and it really did feel like the first time I'd ever seen it, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, too. I thought it was really fun. I really enjoyed River getting to come back. I don't know if she came back anywhere else in the season previous to this, but it felt like the first time you'd seen each other in ages. And I just liked the ending of the two of them together, and that being how we're going to wrap it feels like the Doctor is at rest.
Yeah.
You know, and it just seems very appropriate to tie things off here.
I don't think that she comes back because the way it ends where they're at the restaurant at the singing towers of whatever. Mm-hmm. That happens right before she goes on the mission that brings her to the library.
Okay, where she dies.
Yeah.
Such a weird thing. I would like to have cared about her death more, but just because of how they decided to tell the story out of order, it's like I would have to go back and rewatch it. Because
that's what makes rewatching it more interesting. I always liked those episodes, but rewatching after knowing more about River later on, it had much more of an impact. And that's just a retrospect impact because this whole story with River wasn't Moffat's original plan with her. He created this character, she dies in the episode, and that was that. And then when he had control of the show, he brought her back.
Right. Yeah, so I just... There's a part of me that kind of wants to go back and check that out, but also I like that this is sort of ended with a happy ending for everybody, so I'm fine with leaving it here also.
I just try to think about, in her timeline, she has not met the 10th Doctor. She's spent the most amount of time with the 11th Doctor. This is the first time she's meeting the 12th Doctor.
Right.
And she doesn't recognize him because she doesn't know that he was granted a new, regeneration cycle.
Right.
So she's expecting the 11th Doctor.
Right.
And then when she realizes it's him, and then they spend this, it says a year or a night or whatever on this planet is 24 years. And she does her thing at the library and meets the 10th Doctor, but she's aware that he's the Doctor.
Right.
But there was no other time that she ever met him. Right? Right. I had to think about it.
Not for long, though.
Being River must be weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's it bears some resemblance to Clara and how she like pops in and out, but like doesn't know him, but has met him, or versions of her have met him. It's just, and it's very like out of order, and you don't really know what's going on. Mm-hmm. But you know, obviously it's done better, so it's fine. But I really found this one funny. The whole fucking head in the bag yelling at them is very amusing. There's a real like energy to the head in the bag that's so angry at them that feels like when you're like cuddling your cat, and you can just tell that this cat wants nothing more than to like literally kill you. But it is also shaped and the size of a tiny baby, and you can cuddle it and it will just growl and be mad, but it can't really do anything because you have it wrapped in a towel, because you ain't no dummy. And that's sort of what I kept getting, was just like this like impotent, I'll get you. I swear I will. Will you? Oh my God. You're so cute though. Look at you. Who is the actor playing this man?
Let me look him up.
Now
is the part of the show where Jamie goes to IMDb.
But yeah, this, you know, the whole thing of like, as soon as she tells the doctor, oh yeah, he's got a diamond lodged in his head, I was like, oh, this bitch doesn't give a fuck about this guy. She wants that diamond. And then indeed, she married the diamond, as she keeps saying.
I really like how jealous he was when he found out she was married to someone else. He's like affronted by it, like
with her fine ass husband. He was pretty.
Then the other husband too. But the doctor, as Matt Smith, like the 11th Doctor, was so like overwhelmed by River,
right?
And this doctor, it's like he's had all these years to just be like cool with her, even though he hasn't seen her yet.
Yeah.
And so when he does see her and he's all like excited, and then she's like, my husband, and he's like, you're what now? Excuse me?
I mean,
I think it's really funny.
It's so odd because like, see, and this, look, I don't want to be negative. This is the last episode, but I will say that their constant insinuation that the doctor doesn't know what human women are like attractive or how old they are or anything doesn't work entirely when he has this reaction to River, because it feels like, no, he knows. It's still in there a little bit. Like the reset to behaving as if he has no perspective on human beings at all is sort of an odd choice that I don't really understand. It can be played and pretty funny. It can be played well, but it's not consistent, and it's just sort of an odd thing. And I just, it's fine.
This dude that plays King Hydroflax is 6'8".
Wow. Is that why they picked him?
I don't know. It looks like he's got a lot of comedy on his... I'm assuming these are a lot of shows from the UK that I've not heard of, but based on the titles of them, I'm guessing they are comedies. Mm-hmm. The In-Betweeners is something I've heard of, and I believe that's a comedy. So I think he's a comic actor. And I don't know if they picked him because he's so tall. We never see him. We only see his head.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how tall
I'm just thinking him inside that, like, armor. Maybe he's the only actor who could walk around in it with his head still showing.
Matt Lucas and the other dude were also in it while it was walking around.
Well, I don't know.
How about that surprise of Matt Lucas?
Yeah, okay, so... Did you watch the Community episode?
I did.
So Matt Lucas shows up in the Community episode.
He does.
I was intending to rewatch it anyway, just because I was like, oh, that's a fun thing. Those who don't know, there's season 4, episode 3 of Community is about a Inspector Spacetime convention, which is obviously a Doctor Who convention. And Matt Lucas shows up in that, and I did not remember that at all when I went to rewatch it. And then I was like, oh my God. I have a really hard time with him. I find him so off-putting. And I really, like, it's been tough with, he even makes, like, some mention of competitive cooking shows in that Community episode, which is hilarious in light of the fact that he winds up hosting Great British Bake Off. But I am glad that he isn't in this episode more. That's how I'll say that. Because I just found him really, like, he just, as a person, he looks like he's had all of the color leached out of him. He looks like unbaked bread dough. You know what I mean? You know what I mean.
I've never heard a human being described as that, and it's so accurate.
It's just, it's not like, I'm not trying to be a dickhead. I think he'd agree with me, because it's like, there's no color change, even between, like, his cheeks and the rest of his face, or his lips and the rest of his face. He's just really, like, all one color. It's
like somebody described the, like, stereotype of a British person to somebody who, like, a police artist, like a sketch artist. And they made Matt Lucas. He's all white.
Yep.
He's got this, like...
His head's weird. Let's just say it, okay? Look. He's got a weird head. It's fine.
Shaped like an egg.
I also have a weird head. It's very large. Mine's weird in, like, a particular way. So I'm not throwing from a glass house. Like, my house is gone already, so I can throw all I want. But... yeah. I just, and he always tends to play groveling, snivelly sort of characters. So whenever he shows up, I'm just like, oh, okay, here comes the creep who's going to be weird and creepy. And he kind of isn't, like, he's a bit of a hapless henchman. And then he winds up, like, getting absorbed into the robot at the end in a way that I didn't really understand. He gets downloaded, I guess, is meant to be what happens, and he gets kept, even though his head is eventually replaced with her husband's head.
And they're both, in the robot somehow.
And they're sharing.
Can I just let you in on something? Because I know the audience is like, okay. Glad you're quitting. This character, Nardole, who Matt Lucas plays, becomes not entirely the Doctor's companion, but his associate. They're in the season 10 with the character Bill that I told you about. When she first meets the Doctor, he's like a professor or something at a university, something like that, I don't know. And Nardole is his assistant, and he's in the whole season.
Oh. Yeah.
And everybody was like, but I really wanted to meet Nardole. And here's the thing. You guys always want what you want from her. Think opposite. Because if you are like, oh, I'm so excited, she's going to hate it. That's what we're learning here.
Yep. I mean, I clearly just have a very different response to things from most people, I guess. I don't know. Or at least people who stay fans of the show.
The few episodes of that season that I did watch, I found him quite annoying. So it's not just you.
He tends to be an annoying character. That's all how he's always cast. And like low-key on Great British Bake Off, he's pretty annoying.
Not low-key. Very much the worst thing about that new season.
Look, I wasn't going to say that. I'm not even sure I agree, but I understand.
I very much think that is the best show in the history of the world. And his presence on it, I felt, was mismatched. And anytime he was trying to be funny, I was like, you're not funny.
Oh, he's not funny.
Noel is funny. Noel is naturally funny and able to, like, make these people laugh and put them at ease, and you are not funny. And I felt like he's just sucked the air out of the room every time he was trying.
Yeah. He tries really hard. He really tries way too hard, and he's not funny. It's just like the way to work with that is to engage with the people, but he just sort of wants to stand off to the side and like quip alone and not engage the person. And that's like the opposite of what you need for a show like that. It's about the people. And if you don't get that, you're like missing it.
I wish I could remember that there was something that Noel did with one of the contestants that made them laugh so hard. And I was like, he must be so much fun to be around. Mm-hmm. Because it was that girl, the really pretty one that lasted a really long time. She had really long hair and she was like into heavy metal yoga or whatever. Okay. Don't
remember, but
I wish I could remember her name. Krista really liked her because she was so pretty. He said something to her that was all like dark, and she was just like almost like taken aback by it, and then just started laughing because he just kept going and going with it. And I was like, anybody less funny would not be able to get this kind of reaction over something as stupid as what he's saying. Yeah. I love him.
Yeah, I think the thing with, what's his face? Doughboy?
Noel? Oh, Matt Lucas?
Matt Lucas. He doesn't, like I said, he's not listening. So there's like one particularly painful interaction, and I can't remember the details of it, but I know that it was very clear the person with whom he was allegedly communicating was not in the mood, was not responding well to his like little jokes, and he wasn't allowing them to like get out of it. And so it was this really, and it's not very long, but it's the kind of thing where you're like, if this guy wasn't on camera, he might just scream at him. He might have, because I just felt the tension building so hard. And it was because he wasn't really like paying attention to or caring about the response he was getting. And I was just like, how do you, like, the whole thing is meant to be that you're here to like sort of set people at ease when they're freaking out and make it more bearable. Mm-hmm. And it just was the opposite of what he was accomplishing. But
I really hope that they go with someone else for the next season.
I was just like, maybe he hasn't like found his stride yet, but I don't feel like Noel was this ineffective when he started, even though he was the new guy. So I don't know.
With Noel and Sandy, it took them a few episodes to really get comfortable. Mm-hmm. But you saw it happen. Yeah. Where they got used to what they were doing, and they really like understood how to stand there and chat with the contestants and make them laugh or put them at ease or comfort them if needed. Mm-hmm. And Matt just doesn't have that, and he had the whole season and never really figured it out. Yeah. And I think it's just, he's just not as funny as his like reputation seems to make him, because there has to be a reason that he was cast in a relatively funny role in this episode. He was cast in an episode of Community, which is really great at casting guest stars.
Well, they chose him for Community because he's like awful. Yeah. In the role like that he's playing, they pick somebody who's meant to be really annoying and off-putting, and that you're like hopeful will be edged out of the picture, so it makes sense. You know, like,
I mean, I just was thinking about Donald Glover yelling, "I'm not psycho."
That episode is really fun.
You acted like a psycho ex-girlfriend, and he's like, "Yep."
Yeah, season 4 is not good for the most part, but that episode is a nice little standout moment for me. And also how Jeff just happens to look like one of the like prime villains.
His terrible British accent with Trisha Helfer.
Oh my God, call me Nige.
Call me Nige.
God damn.
He's like, can I practice my American accent? I haven't auditioned.
It's not very convincing. Girl, I love you.
Oh, right. He was in Bridesmaids, and he was super annoying in that, too.
Yes, that's the other thing I know him from. Thank you. Because I was like, I know I saw something else and he was the worst. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so I think he's mostly famous for that show Little Britain, which I think was a sketch comedy show.
Ah, okay. So anyway, I'm sorry, like, just, guys, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you guys have been like, I'm so excited for such and such, and I just have not had the responses that I think you would want me to have, and it's just, I am not going to give you what you want from the coverage of anything else. I'm just not. I have come to terms with it, and you need to also. It's fine. But I just, like I said, feel that this was a really good send-off episode.
Yeah.
So,
Matt Lucas aside.
Indeed, yes. So, let's see. How do we start things off? It's a Christmas time because this is a Christmas episode again. Allegedly. It's really not, but it is. And he has a sign on the TARDIS that says carol singers will be criticized.
Yeah.
Which it just is such a fucking mood for me. I really like this whole... It's not even just like, I don't want to deal with carol singers. It's like, you can come and sing at your own risk. That's not my problem. Basically, assess how much you're going to be willing to put up with because I'm not going to hold back. And somebody tagged me in a GIF of the boss from Devil Wears Prada saying, florals for spring. Groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, yeah, that is sort of the vibe I carry around a lot of the time. It's just this like low-key, like, yeah, wow, amazing. So...
Did I hear something recently about you not liking that movie?
Yeah, Devil Wears Prada is garbage.
It's not a great movie, but I find it to be a fun movie.
I find it, like, first of all, the fiancé...
Oh, he's terrible.
...is super terrible. Secondly, there's like this like celebration at the end because she goes down from a size 6 to a size 4, which I think is really toxic and gross.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of messaging that they're like allegedly doing a spoof, but it feels like they're actually doubling down on the message actually. And I just found like there was just a million things about it as I watched it that I was like, okay, you know what? I just don't like anybody in this movie. I'm not rooting for anyone.
I think that Meryl Streep is really great in that. I think the wardrobe that Anne Hathaway has in the movie is incredible. And I think Emily Blunt is... I mean, it was a star-making role for her. I thought she was great. So, like, performance-wise, I really like that movie. I think it's got a lot of problems, and the book is just worse than the movie.
Ooh, is it?
Yeah, the book is worse. But that is, like, the girl who wrote it, or the girls who wrote it, that was the kind of experience that they had working at Vogue. Mm-hmm. So, I get it. When I think about, like, the best fashion I've ever seen in a movie, that's one of the ones I think of. Because
I don't remember
Anne
fashion,
Hathaway's,
I'll be honest.
Her wardrobe was, like, everything I would have wanted if I could have worn that kind of stuff. Just thought it was great.
I haven't watched it for a long time, but I just remember, like, I watched it, I put it on once, I was living here, I'm pretty sure, and it was just meant to be, like, in the background while I did something, and I just found myself, like, getting so angry, and it just didn't really, like, redeem itself by the end, and I just ended it feeling really angry that none of the stuff I was hoping would happen for the comeuppance of certain people actually happened, and it felt like everybody took away the wrong message from it.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a good movie, and it doesn't have good messages. I just think it has good performances.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is an auspicious start, but then we have What's-His-Face show up, and I was kind of like, huh. He's looking around for a capsule that has the surgeon in it, and it turns out that the surgeon is actually another dude who we see walking around with a medical bag a little bit later. Mm-hmm. But he, is he anybody? Like, is that a stunt cast?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was just wondering if he was,
Not that I'm aware
that was
of,
meant to be a bit of a joke of his own or something. And he goes up to the TARDIS, and the Doctor sticks his head out, and he's got red felt antlers on his head. And the Doctor asks, have I got anything on my head? And he tells him, you've got antlers. And he goes back in and yells at the TARDIS for trying to cheer him up with antlers, basically. Now, I'm assuming something just happened that was very tragic at the end of the last season, which means that he needs cheering up, and is also part of why he's alone.
A few episodes earlier, Clara died. And people. Why are you finding that so funny?
Oh, God, because they just really didn't know what to do with her, did they?
No.
Oh, my God, that is... How did she die?
It's convoluted.
shocked.
There was something with Rigsy. People were like, oh, you're not going to watch next season. Natasha really liked Rigsy, and he does come back. So something happens with Rigsy where he is basically being accused of killing someone or something, and he's got this countdown on the back of his neck, this like weird tattoo that's counting down. And I don't remember the details, but Clara basically takes that countdown from him to save him, and it basically like a Reaper comes and takes her. That was those episodes where like Clara's last two episodes were actually really good. It was they were the only episodes of the season that I actually paid attention to and really enjoyed. Like, they kept my interest. They were really good. And then I started looking at, because people wanted me to kind of tell you what happened with Clara. So I started reading this whole thing about her. And apparently there's this whole other plot where the Doctor goes to Gallifrey and he is able to, like, do something that snatches her out of that moment, the moment before she dies, and it leaves her sort of suspended, and then she's able to, like, go on adventures. It makes no sense.
I love hearing you say that you looked it up, and then your whole vibe, the tension ratchets up.
It's like,
and you're just like, you're so obviously irritated by whatever it was.
Like, her dying and the way she did it, which was a sacrifice, which was noble, I was, like, moved by it. That was a really good ending. And then for later on, for this whole other thing to be happening, where she's going off on adventures with the character that Maisie Williams plays in that season. Just fuck off. Like, let somebody have a noble death and leave it at that. And then the Doctor, there's this other two-parter that's called Hellbent and Heaven Sent, where I don't know if this is when he's trying to save her or what, because everybody talks about how great these episodes were, and I just was not into it. He basically is, like, trying to solve a mystery where he's having to relive the same day over and over and over again for, like, thousands of years. And then, like, finally solves a mystery at the end of it, and none of it stuck with me, and I don't know. I liked that Clara died. I thought it was sweet. And Rigsy, like, paints this whole mural on the TARDIS in memory of her, and that's really sweet, too. And then for them to later on be like, well, we, snatched her right out of that moment, and now she's, like, able to go and, like, have a life, and then we can put her back in that moment when she's ready to go. No. That takes away what it meant for her to make that sacrifice. Right. Just so the Doctor can, like, not be sad. So, I'm not a fan. But the two, if you ever are, like, curious, I think the one where she dies is called Face the Raven. I can't remember what the one right before it is. It's a two-parter, but Face the Raven is really the only, is a really good one.
Okay. Noted. I'm sorry. I just, like...
So that's why the Doctor's sad. So he doesn't want to be cheered up, because his friend just died.
I'm God, I am so glad we're quitting, guys. I'm sorry. Wow. I don't know if any of you were still holding out hope that we were going to continue. I genuinely don't know why. Because you have to know by now that I'm going to feel a way about a lot of things. I feel like I am predictable at this point, right? I don't know. Then there's things that people are like, oh, I thought you'd really hate this one, but you loved it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not predictable. But that is really something. All right. So he gets escorted by this dude and gets met by this woman in a bonkers cloak that looks like Santa. Honestly, I want it. And then reveals herself to be River Song, and he does not recognize him at all. This cloak is so good, you guys. It's this like red velvet and black damask with white fur and black toggles, and I want it so bad. I would wear the fuck out of this thing.
She gets a great wardrobe always because she
Every
looks
time.
amazing in everything.
Yep. So she doesn't recognize him. And I love when she says, do we know each other? And he says something about usually needing a flow chart, which, yeah, you know what? That would probably be helpful. And they go inside and he sees her husband that I love the way that she talks to him. I am flying to your side. Oh my God, it's so funny.
Can I point out a really great line, though?
Sure.
That if she says, never speak my name again or I will remove your organs in alphabetical order.
And he says, which alphabet? Which is a really good response. Which alphabet indeed? A bitch wants to know. Yeah, I just like the way that she stops when he asks that too. And is genuinely like, I don't know how to answer that. And just kind of, yeah, you know? So they go inside. He sees her husband and she wants to talk to him privately. There's a huge audience also, by the way, for this like surgery. And I wasn't really sure what the deal was with that.
The huge audience is of the people who worship him, and they thought she was getting a doctor to save him. She was getting a doctor to sever his head. Right.
So why don't you just not have witnesses then?
I think the king probably wanted, thinking that this doctor was going to come and save him.
Okay.
He wanted an audience.
It's, how is she planning on hiding from the audience what's happening?
Oh, who knows? I don't think she really cared. Because the doctor, like had a surgeon who was supposed to do this, and then she was going to run off to the TARDIS, because she's a time traveler as well. She knew the doctor was going to be in this place.
Right.
So her plan was to run off to the TARDIS and disappear. So it didn't really matter that there were witnesses.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I got you. So yeah, privately, she's like, so I figure just taking his head off is probably the easiest way to get the diamond, right? And he's like, what? And I just really enjoy the whole reaction that he has to this of just like, I can't believe you. And I'm like, have you met her? You have. I know you have. You remember her. So what are you surprised by here, guy? And this guy, evidently the king is like a really bad dude also. So, you know, he's like a genocidal maniac. Although evidently they go to like a restaurant where genocide is like a prerequisite for membership. So I don't know. But yeah, so this dude winds up overhearing the two of them. And he wants to... he wants to have her, like, basically, like, publicly executed. He's very excited about the idea of everybody getting to see her death And it feels very, like, sort of Roman. And all of he's got these, like, monks who sort of keep watch over him. Mm-hmm. But they seem to be pretty much of no consequence in the end, really.
Yeah.
So this dude is standing there listening to the whole thing. The monks, like, it doesn't really seem like they at all matter. And I love when she tries to act like, oh, you're up and about. Like, it's fine. When he definitely heard you, girl. He knows what you're trying to do. And she says something about taking off his head, or he says, and he was like, you could have just asked. And then he takes his own head off and puts it on the table. And it was like the kind of thing that I enjoy the reveal of him doing this and the way that he looks at her like, see, bitch, as he's being put down, because that's real weird. But it doesn't feel like the kind of thing that you want to do when you've been threatened. Like, just disconnecting yourself from your body feels like not a good move right now.
Except that he can tell his body to attack.
Right. It turns out, like, really he doesn't have much to worry about, or so he thinks. But, as we see, it wasn't that simple. I do really enjoy the look that he gives her as he's being set down, though. He looks like an angry baby. There's something really, like, childish about his fucking smirk. And his name, by the way, is King Hydroflax, which I'm pretty sure is a supplement that we used to sell at Whole Foods. I'm pretty sure. You know what? I'm going to Google Hydroflax right now.
I was going to Google it. Go ahead.
Hydroflax. Hydroflask. That's a thing. King Hydroflax and then Hydroflask. I have to imagine that Hydroflask was created in response to Hydroflax. Like, they knew what they were doing with that, right?
Well, what's a hydroflask?
It's sold at REI.
So it's a water
and it is
flask.
A brand of water bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stainless steel, double-walled, very expensive. So yeah, it looks like maybe Hydroflax is not a thing.
It does sound like a supplement, though.
Yeah, it's just, so they wind up grabbing up his head and taking it with them in a bag. His body is left behind, and they essentially jump off the ship and land on the ground outside, where the doctor starts absolutely cracking up because this head is inside the bag and yelling at them about how they need to submit to his superior will. And it is honestly really, really funny. I love the doctor cracking up here. Yeah. It was sorely needed to see him fucking crack a smile, I'll tell you what. So, thumbs up on that.
He says that it's ridiculous to be threatened by a bag.
So, where do they go from here? Is this when she starts seeking out the, they meet her husband, her other husband.
Yeah,
who's super pretty.
They meet up with Ramon, and they go to the TARDIS. Right?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. She meets up with him, and they track the TARDIS down. The doctor's trying to, tell her who he is in so many words, but she's not picking up on it, and so he decides that he's going to finally do an actual satisfactory, oh my god, it's bigger on the inside moment, because he feels like he has never really gotten something satisfying. And that, for me, was a very, very good joke. I really, really loved his own reaction to his TARDIS. I thought that was... I loved it. I really did. I don't know. Like I said, this episode just feels like the perfect way to end things. And that was one of the ways in which it just feels like we're doing a few things. Like, he even mentions later when she has the sonic trowel, and he's like, do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Mm-hmm. Just a few things like that. I really enjoyed his, the doctor getting to comment on something before we sign off, It's not as snug as it looks as she goes back inside. He stands there for a second and looks irritated, and then he smiles and says, finally. I want to read exactly what it is that he says. And he steps in. She's already in the midst of something. Oh my God. It's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. And she says, you certainly grasped the essentials. My entire understanding of physical space has been transformed. Three-dimensional Euclidean geometry has been torn up, thrown in the air, and snogged to death. My grasp of the universal constants of physical reality has been changed. ... forever. And the camera ducks all over the place while he says this, as he like thrusts his hands toward the heavens in shock, and the camera's like looking down at him from the ceiling. It's very good. I enjoyed this a great deal.
If we had gotten this version of the 12th Doctor from the start,
I'm saying
it would have been so much more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is fun. He's fun in this episode. He's extremely charming and engaging and funny. And instead, what we had was somebody who was sour and mad,
mm-hmm.
and a preoccupation with soldiers being bad.
Yep.
Like, why did we do that to Peter Capaldi?
Yeah.
And I know, I can hear you guys already. I know. This is more what he ends up like. I don't care anymore. It's too late. This is the last episode of Doctor Who ever. I don't know what you guys are talking about. There is no more.
Oh, there you have it. Yeah, I just really, and this is what I was saying before about how when the show isn't taking itself so seriously is when it's at its best. When it understands what it is and jokes about itself. Mm-hmm. That's when I like it. And I don't even mean like, because shows can get too meta and a little bit up their own ass and a little bit too like smug about being self-referential. And that can be very tiring. But I don't mean that. I mean when it recognizes its own ridiculousness in this sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
And I want more of this, but it just felt like the show wanted to be two different things and could never settle or really commit. And that was my issue. So here is like exactly what I liked best. And they really went for it. And I was just so grateful that we get to end things on this note, because like that, yeah, this is what I'm looking for.
I like that she shows the Doctor that she's got these pictures. She knows what he looks like and all of
mm-hmm.
his faces. And she's got all these pictures of all the incarnations of him. And he's like, maybe he doesn't have the limits that you think. Because at this point, he's not even bothering to try to explain it to her.
Yeah. She's so certain that she knows already. She doesn't want to hear anything out of him.
Yeah, she just thinks this is some guy. This is just
mm-hmm.
some surgeon. And he keeps saying, I'm the doctor. And she's like, yeah, I know.
Dingus. Okay, so where do they go from here? They go to that restaurant pretty much. Yeah. Oh, first they have the problem with the fact that because they have the head, but the rest of the body is in that thing, the TARDIS doesn't want to take off.
Right.
And this is when her fiancé or husband gets gripped up and made into the head after what's-his-face has already been downloaded. I guess they just pull his head out and toss it aside.
It's like, I'm trying to think of how to describe the way I picture it inside of there, as if each head is on a little spoke and it just turns a wheel and that head pops up.
Yeah, I see that. It's such a weird, like... Also, I really enjoy how dismissive she is of her husband, because she's doing the thing that so many like male characters in history have done, where they married somebody because they're super pretty, or they're with somebody because they're super pretty, and just like, oh, she's not really that smart, but I don't keep her around for that, that kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. And she's like using that kind of vibe a lot here, and even wiped from his memory that they got married because he was, quote, being annoying. And it's just really interesting to see that trope reversed where it's the woman saying these things, because it really points out how much more startling it should have been to a lot of us, I think. But we always, it's sort of, there was, I don't remember if it was a tweet or what, but the remake of Ghostbusters came out, or the sequel, whatever you want to call it, where they have Chris Hemsworth as the stupid secretary who's incredibly hot. And this woman was talking about how she went to see the movie with like her nephew, and he was like, I didn't really get what the point was of him. He didn't do anything. He was just stupid. And she was like, yeah, but he was really pretty. And he was like, yeah, but so what? And she says, well, can you think of other times when characters have been used like that and what that has been? And like sort of led him down, and all of a sudden he realized like, oh, the dumb hot one's usually a woman. And so I'm able to just roll with that because women aren't people and it's fine. But when it's a dude who we're used to seeing as a full human being, it seems really weird. Mm-hmm. And, I'm just a fan of River getting to be like, no, he's a vase. I thought he was very pretty. I picked him up. I put him on my mantle. I go back and put flowers in him when I feel like it, and otherwise, whatever. I really just like it.
Yeah.
So he gets his head taken off, and they come and try to attack the two of them. I don't remember exactly what winds up getting them, because he's like in the TARDIS they can take off, but how do they get out of it?
I'm looking.
I see her. She's like grabbed the doctor's hand and they're running away, and he's yelling at her for grabbing his hand. But when they run away, they just open doors and they're suddenly like in this really expensive restaurant lobby. And I don't understand exactly how we got here. It felt almost like there was a door in the TARDIS that cut right to this place. But I feel like I have to be misunderstanding that.
This says, the knocking is heard on the door with Ramon yelling for River. River opens the door to find Ramon's head on the robot body. Apparently the robot's answer to everything is to cut off someone's head and use it. It starts attacking, and with the doctor grabbing Hydroflax's head, he threatens to send Hydroflax down the trash chute if he doesn't get himself under control. This works...
That's earlier when they're still on the other ship, though.
I thought this was on the TARDIS. This works with River piloting the TARDIS to land in the starship Harmony and Redemption.
Oh, okay. Maybe he does that twice. I could have sworn I saw that earlier. Well, whatever. Okay. It
so
doesn't
I guess
it
that
didn't look like they piloted it, but okay.
I think once the robot switched heads, then the TARDIS wasn't stuck with no, there's a part of a body inside and part of the body outside.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So they wind up in this restaurant. There is this weird sort of shrimp man.
I thought of him like a fish. Like a fish man.
Yeah, like a shrimp. Shrimp's a fish, right?
No.
Sure it is.
I don't know. It's a crustacean.
He's got like a shell on his face.
Does he?
Yeah. And little feelers.
I don't know. I watched it on my laptop. I wasn't really looking at him closely. I'll take your word on it. You've got it in front of you.
Yeah. He he winds up being quite devious later and betrays her, which I was kind of a fan of because, everybody betraying each other is very interesting. And he leads them to a table where they are going to be meeting the buyer for the stone, even though she has not actually extracted it from the head. They're going to have to dig in there and get it themselves. But it's fine because they have a lot of experience digging into heads because that's where this guy keeps his wallet, apparently. And it is unnerving. I did not care for that. He has this weird, just shy of a Hellraiser sort of vibe. And he is unappealing. And things wind up. So she's sort of trying to be oh, well, I have made my own plans. But it turns out that this whole restaurant is evidently like sort of in on the thing. This guy's name is Scratch. That's right. Everybody stands up and has like a slash on their face the way that he does. And he begins chanting Hydroflax, and so does everyone. And he reaches out and says, "Give us the treasure." And I didn't understand what was happening here. Like, I thought that they were like chanting his name because they were worshiping him. But then he says, "Give us the stone." So it felt like it was about the stone after all. I wasn't really following this.
They thought that they were going to get this diamond for Hydroflax. They don't know that the diamond is in Hydroflax's head.
Oh, okay. I completely missed that they didn't know that already. Okay. Now it all comes together. I get it. So yeah, when he's yelling about, he's so dramatic. The whole thing is so weird. So the body, meanwhile, is dealing with the waiter. And the waiter is like, "I'll tell you who she's really married to, because if you want a top-notch head, you really cannot do better than the doctor." And this robot being is the one problem that I would say about this episode is the fact that the robot hasn't got any real personality. I would like it if he weren't so sort of rote, you know? But he's basically like, "Yeah, all right, I'm open to that. I could do with a new head that's like really good, because I've had sort of subpar ones the past couple of weeks, so that'd be fine with me, actually." It's weird because since the other head, which was the king's original head, is dying, which is what the robot eventually says to him, because it's dying, the robot is just going to like let him die. Mm-hmm. But there's no sort of like implication to me that the robot is going to download his head, like his personality, or that he still has his personality. His quote body just feels like a robot. It doesn't feel connected to him at all.
I don't think it is. He probably thought this was a good idea, would keep him alive or keep him strong or whatever. Sure, I'll just let this robot download my head.
But it doesn't, that's what I mean. It doesn't seem to have downloaded his head. It doesn't seem to have downloaded his personality at all.
Well, I think it only works when the head is attached to the robot.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And now
that's quite a betrayal.
The head has like brain damage, and the robot's like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
And just kills the head.
Wow. Bodies be real mean sometimes. I could definitely see my body being like, "Yeah, girl, look, we appreciate your effort, but we're going to move on. It's been fun." So he, and I forgot to mention that we also see for the first time her journal at the table. Mm-hmm. And she gets very, very possessive of this thing later when they begin to grab at it. So eventually the waiter comes in with his fucking smug, "Oh, has the food disappointed you?" Followed by this giant body. And this is when the body rejects him, vaporizes his head. Not even vaporizes it. Turns it to ash. The stone is the only remaining thing. I do really enjoy her leaning over to the waiter and just saying, "You couldn't just fetch that over for me, could you?" And the guy just like turning and looking at her like, "What?" And this is when this man asserts that River Song is married to the doctor and that she is perfect bait. The doctor loves her, and she really begins to, for the first time, lose her cool. And talks about how she loves the doctor, but it's like loving a sunset. It's not that you don't like admire it and expect it to admire you back. All of these sorts of giant over-the-top declarations of her feelings without realizing that he is right there and he is trying to stop her. To his credit, he's aware that she's going to be really embarrassed, and he, like, tries to be like, girl, don't. But she won't hear it. So, like, that's sort of on you, girl. And... and... what happens when she realizes? How do they get out of this? I'm trying to... I'm at the spot, but...
Like, he's trying to tell her, and he just smiles at her, and then he says, hello, sweetie.
Right.
And she's
mortified.
Oh, shit. She says something about how he has to do his roots.
That's right. And then she's like, I was just trying to stall them to wait for it to hit. And he was like, wait, what? Everybody there. And then when she says to the waiter, I'm an archaeologist from the future. I dug you up. And that's a pretty good line. I actually really liked that. I dug you up. And it turns out that there is a meteor that's going to hit.
Yeah, a meteor hits the ship.
And they fall one flight down into another lobby. History's finest exploding restaurants. The best food for free, skip the coffee. And he says, what do you think of the new body? And she says, I'll let you know. I've only seen the face. And the look that he gets, I love that so much. There's a little bit of a, and it's like, they have never banged, right?
I mean, we don't know. It's a kid's show.
I feel like they haven't. And then the stone falls from above, and she just yanks out her dress and catches it between her titties, which is probably the most River Song thing to ever happen on the show. Meanwhile, I only have French fries in there ever. No fucking diamonds for me. And the robot also falls through the floor. And he sends her off and faces off with this robot. What is it that he does here? It's telling him, I will take your head. What for? We're on a crashing spaceship. You just shot your own king in your own face. You'd get beheaded if you had one. What a weird series of sentences that all is. Oh, man. And this is when he grabs the ball that's like money?
Yeah.
This connects every bank to every other bank in the galaxy. Right here in my hand. All the money you can eat. Demonstrate. And it bends forward and he smushes that little ball onto its neck stump. And it begins to short circuit. Welcome to all the best firewalls in the galaxy. Nothing is protected like money. Every stock market within a light year is arguing in your head. What a weird... What?
It's like it overloads the robot.
No, I get it. I get what they're trying to do. It's fine. But it's a little weak.
Yeah.
But it's fine. And then he grabs the journal and turns and runs and stops to somebody and says he had a bad day on the market. Sorry, I appreciate that wasn't really funny, but I couldn't help saying it. As this place is literally like blowing up around him, he really feels the need. That feels on brand. And he manages to get in with River in the control area just in time. And they wind up, let's see. Yeah, she's fine. He calls her indestructible as ever. And does he keep that stone from her? Because he finds it and picks it up. But I can't remember if he winds up giving it back to her or not. Because he puts it in his pocket.
No, he gives it to the guy later to then create that restaurant.
Right. That's right. That's right.
They argue about all of their other marriages.
Yes.
The doctor married Marilyn Monroe and Cleopatra. And he's like, you've married Hydroflax, Ramon, and Stephen Fry.
Oh, I forgot he said Stephen Fry. That's funny. What a random one to throw in there. I wish it could have been somebody like Brad Pitt Somebody very, like, you know, heart-throbby.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I am, like I said, guys, I'm very pleased with this for last episode. So, he steps outside and sees the singing towers, and there's this guy who was, like, looking through the wreckage for survivors. And, like you said, the doctor gives him the thing to start the restaurant, which the guy just does. And he can't get a reservation until 4 years from then on Christmas. And that's what makes this a Christmas episode, which is honestly hilarious. Like, it's just the thinnest Christmas veneer over the whole thing. And then we have the conversation at the end with River saying that she has looked into their relationship a few times and the history and the lore, and allegedly this place is the last time they ever see each other. And is it true? And can't he get around it? There's always a loophole. He'll pull one out at the last second and look really smug about it. And he keeps insisting that there are some things you just can't get around. And then he tells her that one night here is 24 years. And she starts laughing and says, "I hate you." Which, that was like probably the coupliest moment we have seen from them. When you start laughing and saying, "I hate you" to your partner, you're in love.
Yep.
That's what that means. Just everybody, so you know.
That's... like, Jason will say something stupid and I'll be like, "No, you're whatever he just said." And I feel like that's the same thing.
Yeah. Or just like shit that doesn't make sense. Or Owen will be like, "I don't know, it feels a bit too green." You're a bit too green.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
So the episode ends with the two of them smiling and almost kissing. There's like a vibe like they're gonna kiss any second, but they don't actually kiss any second. And I couldn't decide if I wanted them to kiss or not.
I think it's proof that Alex Kingston has chemistry with everyone.
Yeah, that's
Everyone.
true. That's true. Yeah.
Like,
Her
I
and
feel...
Captain Jack would be pretty explosive together.
Oh, that would be
Can
fun.
you imagine?
Yeah, that would be fun. I think that's something that people were like, I hope she comes back. I'd love to see her with Captain Jack, because he does come back in the most recent season. That was
Okay.
something I got spoiled about because people were losing their fucking minds. And I remember people being disappointed, like, "Oh, it's too bad he came back and River didn't come back," because I'd love to see the two of them together. Because, yeah, I mean...
Yeah.
Because she does. She just has chemistry with everyone. Like, I remember when she was on ER and she had great chemistry with the actor who played Dr. Benton, and then later had really great chemistry with the actor that played Mark Green. And it's like, it was so believable each time. Like, it just made sense. It didn't feel like they were trying to, like, okay, well, we're keeping her around, so we've got to hook her up with somebody. It was just like, organically, these two just had really good chemistry too.
Right.
And then in this, like, chemistry with David Tennant, chemistry with Matt Smith, chemistry with Peter Capaldi, and you can't predict that.
That's true.
And it's believable with each of those actors. Like, I get it. I understand their relationship.
I will say, too, that because we have really only gotten to see Peter Capaldi, like, angry, this moment of tenderness from him and the way that he looks at her when she realizes what he just said and starts laughing, it's so, like, refreshing, this moment from him of just real emotion and affection, when it feels like he doesn't express that almost ever on this show. Even with people that he allegedly is very attached to, I don't feel like I've seen that.
Right.
So
And this is
I just
also,
really liked it.
like, he knows the next time she sees him, it won't be him. It'll be the 10th version of him.
Right.
And she'll die. He knows that. Because he knows how long. Her diary only goes to a certain point. And she says, the person who gave it to me knew exactly how many pages I was going to need. and he knows that she's almost at the end of it. And that the last time that she mentions to him when he's the 10th Doctor, the last time she saw him was when they went to the singing towers on Beryllium.
Mm-hmm.
And now he knows, like, and she says earlier in this episode, no, you keep saying you'll bring me there and you never do.
Right.
Because he knows that's the last time he'll see her. Or
he keeps canceling.
Yeah. So he keeps putting it off, but now he can't put it off because he can see the diary's almost full. So it's really sad, but really sweet. And I'm glad that they were able to wrap up River's story in a way that just makes sense. And while it makes the Forest of the Dead and whatever it is, why am I Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, makes that even sadder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It also makes it mean more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that it's frustrating for me that it makes that mean more in retrospect. Mm-hmm. Because I just failed so much to connect to characters on this show that it's annoying to have it work that way when otherwise it hasn't really been successful for me for that. I feel like if I had been able to connect better all along, then that would feel more satisfying, you know?
Yeah.
But because it just missed the mark so many times for me, I find that just more frustrating because I'm like, oh, okay. So the one relationship that I actually was pretty invested in, it's not even the one relationship, but, you know, one of the few that really worked for me that I cared about. It's just sort of told out of order, and thus it's a little bit more difficult to connect with unless you rewatch. But that said, I do really enjoy, like I said, the emotion of this episode. There's such, like, the fact that it's the last time they're going to see each other is the perfect way to end our coverage of it, where it's a goodbye, you know? Mm-hmm. And getting to see him being affectionate with her and laughing. Very exciting.
Yeah.
And just overall, I feel like this hit a lot of the right notes for me, and I was very pleased with it. So,
well, I'm glad, because I felt the same way. I felt like this was a really good way to not only end our show, but for me, it just feels like a good place to stop trying to watch the show.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, I'll go back and watch episodes that I've always loved, I'm sure. But I'm not going to feel this sort of pressure to be completist about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I've been unhappy with it and had been even back when it was originally airing, like, not into it for a reason. And this just feels like a gift.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that people suggested us watching it, because I probably would have just been like, well, it's a bummer we didn't get to see River's last episode, but whatever.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think I am pleasantly surprised, and I don't know if everybody was, like, remembering how this ends and knew that that would be a good way to, like, cap things off, or if it's sort of accidental.
I think it's accidental. I think they really wanted, because it's River, and they know that you've responded really well to River. I mean, River's I've always said she's one of my favorite companions, even though she's never been officially a companion. Mm-hmm. So I was like, yeah, let me watch it and see if it's any good, because I love River. But I think mostly it was just like, oh, it's a good episode. It'd be great if you guys could finish with that one.
Yeah, well, it worked out really well. So good call. And I'm glad that you vetted it and allowed it. And I feel like that's about as good as you're going to get for an impromptu ending, you know? Yeah. I just feel like that works really well.
There is one piece of trivia that was interesting.
Okay. Hit me.
This is the first episode where both the Doctor and his companion are played by people over the age of 50.
I was thinking how also nice it was that they were age appropriate for the first time.
Yeah.
Or not even the first time. That's not fair, because Matt Smith and
Karen Gillan?
Yes. But they really didn't, because she had Rory, and that wasn't really a thing. And Rose and David Tennant, there was like a fair age gap, wasn't there? Between the actual actors, but they didn't look like they were totally off.
Right.
So, but I did appreciate that. I did. That was a nice moment of just like, oh, look. They actually look like it could be a real couple that you wouldn't be like squicked out by. That's nice.
And especially because Matt Smith is so much younger than her. Okay, she was born in 1963. So, damn, she is almost 60. She looks great.
So when this was recorded, she was like almost 50?
This was... When was this? 20... Hold on, I'm gonna look at this Husband's River song 2015. So, what's that, 6 years ago?
Yeah, it is. Jesus Christ.
And she was born in 63, so she is 58. Minus 6, so 52. She was 52. She looks great.
Oh, she looks amazing.
I just want to see 63. Now I'm just going to look at Matt Smith. Because she spent the most time with him. I just want to know how old he is.
Okay.
He was born in 1982.
So he's 2 years older than me. So he's 38.
So she was born in 63. He was born in 82. That's what, 19-year difference?
Yeah. Yeah, that's too much. I'm just going to say it. It's just too much.
Curiosity. Peter Capaldi. I just want to know. Because, Peter Capaldi could be 100. He could be 50. I don't even know. 58. So he's like, what is that, 5 years older than her?
Yeah. So that works. He looks way older than her, though, I will say. He is not as well preserved as she is, obviously. No offense, dude, but you know. It's fine.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Suicide Squad movie?
No.
Okay. It's a really fun trailer. There's this character in it, and I kept looking at him like, who is that? What the fuck is that? And then I made Jason watch the trailer because I hated the Suicide Squad movie except for Margot Robbie. And she's in the new one, and I'm like, I'll watch anything she's in. Let's be real. Watch this trailer. It's really fun. And there's this guy again, and I'm like, what the... he looks so familiar. And there's like 100 people in this movie. It's so many people in this movie. So I start looking at the IMDb for it. It's Peter Capaldi.
Oh my God.
Playing this like weird looking character, which I'm sure some DC fan out there knows exactly who it is that he's playing, but I don't know. And I like kind of recognize his face, but there's so much other stuff going on that I was like, why? I know that person. Who is that?
That's funny.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about questions that people have asked us in the group. Actual questions. So Tegan J asks, for you both, who is your favorite Doctor and companion? Which Doctor would you like to travel with? Any episodes you'd like to revisit? Most memorable episode? So, favorite Doctor and companion. Obviously, favorite companion is Donna. Favorite Doctor... I'm going to say 9, even though I know that he's like angry and also seems traumatized from his time on the show. But I just really enjoyed him a lot. And I was very sad about saying goodbye to him. Which would I like to travel with? Matt Smith, probably, because he seemed to be having the best time. Mm-hmm. Episode I would revisit. I mean, I rewatched Midnight already. I actually bought it so that I could rewatch it with Owen. And, that's probably like, I probably out of all of them, that's the one I would go back to because it's such a good standalone. You don't need any other context or anything. Mm-hmm. And most memorable is probably the one with the fucking Statue of Liberty being a weeping angel because, like, really, Yeah. So what about you?
My favorite companion...
Favorite Doctor first.
Favorite Doctor... Okay, well, that's a tricky one because the 10th Doctor is my Doctor. He's the Doctor that made me really, love the show.
Okay.
But my amended favorite Doctor is 11. Matt Smith really won me over on this rewatch.
Okay.
My favorite companion is still probably Rose, but really it's Rory and River. But Rory.
Is River a companion?
She's not, but to me she is. But it's actually probably Rory.
Yeah, that's fair.
What's the next question?
Sorry, I went past it.
Which Doctor would I travel with?
Which Doctor would you travel with? Episodes you want to revisit and most memorable episode?
I would want to travel with 10. Just because I just love him. He's dramatic and he yells a lot. He's so pretty.
It's because he's pretty. Be honest.
It's really not. That's part of it. But he holds a very special place in my heart. He'll always be my Doctor. And when you truly fall in love with this show, it's always because of one of the Doctors, and everybody has that's my Doctor. And some people, it's some of the earlier ones from back in the 60s. For me, it's 10. I really loved 9, and I was mad when I realized that he was leaving. But then I was won over by the 10th Doctor almost immediately. Mm-hmm. And that was a moment where I was like, oh, I really like this show. That was weird, and I like it. What would I revisit? The Girl in the Fireplace is still my favorite Doctor Who episode.
Okay.
And what was the last one?
And most memorable episode.
Overall, I think it's Doomsday when Rose got stuck on the other universe because it really broke my heart. I didn't know it was going to happen. I knew that the 9th Doctor left, and we watched that whole season, and I was like, I'm probably quitting after this, and then it was won over by the 10th Doctor.
Right.
I didn't know that Rose was leaving. And so it really, shook me. And I was pretty heartbroken. Plus, I just think that their performances were just beautiful. But
yeah,
most
agreed.
memorable moment of us recording is when you screen capped Mark Gatiss transforming into that creature.
God.
I don't know if I've ever laughed so hard. It's still, I told you, it still makes me, if I ever even think of him, that's what I think of.
He'll
always be that creature for me.
Do not remember why I screamed. Was it because you didn't know what I was talking about when I was trying to be do you remember what he looked like?
I didn't know what you were talking about because every time I'd watch that episode, I was watching the actors in front of him. I was never looking at him.
Ah, okay.
And you screen capped it, and I've never laughed so hard.
Well, glad to be of service. All right, so next question. Are there any episodes you think you might go back to? We kind of said that already. Any time travel concepts you enjoyed? Time travel is always really hard for me because everybody has different rules. Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's only one concept in this show. This time machine, this ship takes you wherever you want to go in time and space. It's a pretty simple concept. It's not like Looper, where actions can change who you are in the future. Mm-hmm. Your arm comes off. I don't know if I've talked about this, but Jason considers Looper to be a horror movie. Because he was so fucked up by what happens to some of the characters in that movie that he was he felt traumatized by it. And I thought it was brilliant. That's my favorite concept of time travel is what's in Looper.
Yeah, time travel for me, it's a real back and forth because there's things like the time traveler's wife, which I find really fascinating.
I love that too.
Because of the fact that the time travel itself is not the main event. It's this weird, it's almost like this disability that this guy is trying to live with. And so I found that compelling. But a lot of the time, including this show, time travel can just be sort of like an answer to get yourself out of a corner.
Yeah.
When you've like written something and you're like, oh, I don't know, they time travel and they undo it. Like, so I go back and forth on whether I even like time travel as a storytelling device a lot of the time. I will be honest, like a lot of shows that will suddenly decide to incorporate a time travel episode, I react with an eye roll. And you have to win me over from there, because I am not usually immediately on board.
How did you feel about the time travel in Endgame?
That was fun because it was heist-like.
Yeah.
So because you decided to play it that way, I don't feel like it's still trying to get out of a corner, but it's also in the spirit of these comic books, you know? They just do that sort of thing, and it's just expected. I am not holding it to a certain kind of standard in that way, so it's fine. And I don't mean to sound that like, to make that sound like, well, you know, I know that it's just a comic book movie, so I don't mean it like that. It's just...
comic book movies have their own set of rules where anything can happen.
Yeah.
That's why when people get all bogged down in the time travel in Endgame, I'm like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, it's... Paul Rudd's character says it. It's a time heist. Just go with it. It's fine.
Yeah, I just feel like it's the kind of thing where if that's what you're what you're focusing on, I don't understand how you don't have a problem with the rest of the movies either. 'Cause like, basically those movies are technology so advanced, it's practically magic. Mm-hmm. And that's how they explain away everything. It's just like, well, you know, they have tech, whatever. So there comes a point where it's like, if you're going to nitpick this, how can you watch any of these? How are you okay with any of them? You got to pick your battles and pick the types of movies that you're going to take issue with on this. So let's see. Favorite side characters, favorite alien, favorite historical figure. So favorite side character, let's see. Because that's not companion. Talking side, I mean, it has to be Rory. I know that he's probably technically considered a companion, but he doesn't really feel entirely a companion. He's there because Amy's there. Hello?
I'm trying to decide how to respond to that.
I genuinely thought that you had gotten disconnected.
He doesn't start out as a companion, but I think he ends as a companion.
Okay.
Because it is not just because of Amy, but that is how he ended up on the TARDIS originally. But then it's Rory and Amy, and there's no one without the other. And so they're both companions. And losing both of them, I think, was as impactful to the Doctor as if he had... Maybe that's not even true, because if Rory had died but Amy hadn't, the Doctor probably wouldn't have been as heartbroken. Not that it diminishes how he, cares about Rory. But I still think that Rory was a companion eventually.
Okay.
I think a side character is technically River Song.
I think
or Jack
that's
Harkness.
Extremely disrespectful.
I do too.
So, I would like you to get off my phone, please.
I also consider her a companion, even though she technically is not and never has been. Except that she's his wife.
I was about to say. She's a companion in the most dramatic sense.
So, putting them aside, I would maybe say Captain Jack.
Okay. That makes sense. God, I know that there's somebody, but I can't think right now. I feel like there was somebody that I got, really attached to. I don't know. I'll come back to it. I'll just think it over. Favorite alien?
I like the Ood.
Yeah, the Ood was at the top of my eyes too, or the top of my list.
And I like the adipose.
Yeah, they were so cute.
They were so cute.
I
think those cat people are really weird.
Yeah, if we're talking sheer design, I I really like the tree from the very first episode.
Yeah.
I enjoy that a lot, actually. But the cat people are just so, like, despicable with the, like, experimentations that they were doing.
Yeah.
That I can't get behind them. But yeah, the Ood and like the Weeping Angels just as a concept are really cool.
Yeah, I feel like the Angels I just loved in Blink, and then they were brought back too many times.
Okay.
I think if we had skipped the Crash of the Byzantine, where Amy has to keep her eyes closed, and is alone in that weird forest. Mm-hmm. If we'd skipped that, and then the next time we see the Angels is in The Angels Take Manhattan, where we lose Rory and Amy, it would have been that much more upsetting.
Okay. I didn't mind them coming back again because they were like one of the few aliens that I actually found threatening. Most of the time, I wasn't actually that worried about the big bads because they just were so frequently ridiculous that I was just like, come on. That said, the silence with the fact that they vanish from your memory is pretty awesome. They don't wind up doing enough is the problem. But I do really like the idea of forgetting about them the second you turn away.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's about all I've got at the top of my head. Favorite historical figure? I don't know. I really hated Queen Elizabeth, if I remember. Didn't they make her like sort of an idiot?
In the Robin Hood episode, yeah.
In the Robin Hood episode. Queen Elizabeth in the Robin
Hood
episode?
No, that's not the Robin Hood episode. Sorry. That's the 50th anniversary episode.
Okay, yeah.
When there's the 10th and 11th Doctors together. Yeah, she was real annoying.
I'm trying to think because, like, probably I just really enjoyed Dickens in that Christmas one. Just because it was a Christmas episode. Dickens is so Christmassy to me. And that actor is from Amadeus, and I was just delighted to see him again. And he seemed like such a good fit, the casting. Other than that, I'm like having trouble recalling anybody except for like Girl in the Fireplace. And we never actually saw Marilyn Monroe. We never actually saw, what's her face?
Cleopatra.
That's the one. So I'm trying to remember who else there is.
Mine would be Madame de Pompadour. Because that...
Girl in the Fireplace,
yeah,
right?
That episode inspired me to look her up and read about her and buy a book about her. And when I saw a painting of her at a museum, I was just like, oh my God. It's the real Madame de Pompadour. Like, it just she became this, like, huge historical figure to me. Especially because on her deathbed, she yelled out, "Wait," and put makeup on.
Oh my God.
And then died.
That's a mood.
Fucking queen. She's a legend.
Okay, so let's see. Next question. What are each of your favorite sci-fi TV shows or movies? From Ben Steele. The previous was from Tori Hawley, by the way. Ben Steele. Favorite sci-fi TV show or movie?
I love sci-fi. Mm-hmm. I used to think I didn't love sci-fi. And then my friend pointed out that half the stuff I watch is sci-fi. And that's when I was watching, like, Buffy and Angel and I can't even remember what now. And I was like, oh, I just don't think of that. I think of sci-fi as, like, Star Wars and Star Trek and that's it. And he was like, no. All this stuff is sci-fi, too. So Buffy was, like, completely defining for me. I was, I think, the right age at the right time.
Yeah, I actually, that was something I was also going to say. It was like recently how I've been recategorizing things in my head. I've also been this way with music, where there's a lot of stuff that I'm realizing people consider rock, and I'm like, they do. That's not rock. But, like, what else do you call it? And
Yeah.
rock is just such a broad category. So, yeah, sci-fi, there's a lot of stuff that technically qualifies. But I'm, like, The Walking Dead people call sci-fi. And I'm like, is it?
I mean, I guess
I
technically, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
would
see?
you become zombies without some sort of mishap in science? Probably not.
And then I've run into stuff where I'm like, well, I liked a lot of this, but not others. Like, I really, really loved the first season of Westworld. Mm-hmm. The second one fell off. A lot of people didn't like the third season. I did, but it wasn't a patch on the first season. Dark, I really loved the first 2 seasons. And then the third season for me really fell apart. And the finale was so disappointing that I was just betrayed and angry for like a week. I haven't finished Travelers, so I don't know how that's going to go, but I had been covering that. I had to cancel it because I didn't get any episodes of it commissioned for a long time. But Travelers was fantastic, and I was really loving that show. It's the kind of thing that now that it's like not being commissioned, part of me wants to go and just put it on and binge it. But I binge things while I'm doing other stuff, and that's a show that really deserves all your attention. So I've been sort of like on the fence on whether I want to give it a try of just binging it and see if I can do it, or if I just want to wait until I have the intention of really just sitting down and watching it. In terms of that's TV. In terms of movies, I mean, the best science fiction movie of all time is obviously
Alien.
Jurassic Park.
Oh. Jurassic Park is up there too.
I just like, it's just such a, Alien is great in terms of the tension of it overall and the way that it's filmed and all of that. But Jurassic Park and the way it's tied in with capitalism is just such a fucking commentary and so well done. And the fucking effects hold up entirely. It's shocking.
It's because they're fucking practical effects.
Yep.
Amazing.
So, yeah, that for me is probably my favorite science fiction movie because I have gone back and watched that countless times at this point. Yeah.
For me, Buffy, Battlestar Galactica is in my top 5 favorite shows of all time. Fringe, I really loved Fringe. Mm-hmm. Lost is science fiction, and it's one of my top 5 as well. Movies, Alien, Terminator. I will watch any Terminator movie. Any. I love them all.
I like the first 2. I don't remember the third one, but I know I saw it. The one that came out a couple of years ago, I actually liked a lot better than I expected.
Are you talking about the one with Emilia Clarke? Or the one that...
No, Emilia
just
Clarke,
recently...
that one sucked.
See, I even enjoyed that because I like a Terminator movie.
Yeah, I thought that one was just incomprehensible and so long. That's the main thing for me about a lot of movies, though, is that they're too long. They need to be fucking edited.
That movie completely wasted having Matt Smith in it and gave way too much time to Jason Clarke, who is a charisma suck and should stop getting cast in things.
Who is that? Jason Clarke?
Yeah.
I'm looking him up.
I hate him. He sucks the air out of everything when he's in it. I think he's the worst. And Matt Smith was really good in that and did not get enough to do.
Oh, what else has this dude been in?
Too many things, Natasha.
Pet Sematary is what I know him from. Okay.
I hate him. I think he's awful.
Yeah, he's got a really weird face. He's got sort of like he's on the edge of like a Tom Hardy face, but not hot.
Ooh, that's another
really
one.
Mean. I'm sorry,
Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, there goes a good sci-fi. Yeah, true.
What an amazing movie!
One of the best movies to come out in the last decade.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next question from Jessica. Favorite moments and least favorite. Very curious what Natasha would say for her least favorite, if there's one in particular that bothered her a lot. I also would enjoy hearing what her favorite moment is. It would be nice going out knowing that she hopefully didn't hate everything. I'd feel bad. Well, I didn't hate everything. I'll say that. It's just that things got overshadowed over time. But, Jessica says, P.S. Jamie, are you going to clue her in on what happens with Clara? I'd be interested to know her thoughts.
Yes, I did that.
Oh, did she predict that I would burst out laughing for a full minute after I found out, you guys? Oh, God. So you go with your favorite moments. Well, I mull it over and figure it out. Because, really, the first one that leaps to mind for me is Donna dragging, 7 pieces of luggage behind her as she, hustles over to the TARDIS, which is just, for me, so relatable and so good.
I don't know. I mean,
Wow.
are we talking about just moments?
That's what she said. That's her question. And she asks for least favorite. I mean, there's a lot of things that are sort of forgettable that I know I got so angry because it turned out there wasn't actually an explanation. So least favorite moments are always the ones where I realize that the thing I've been waiting for someone to address isn't getting addressed.
Yeah.
But I don't really have a specific one in mind because I tried to make myself forget them so that I wouldn't be angry all the time.
I will say that one of I really loved I can't remember the name of the episode. I think it was the astronaut, the beginning of season 6. When River and the Doctor are sort of fighting the silence, and they're doing that thing that Rey Kylo Ren thing where they're back to back and they're quipping and they're fighting. I really liked that.
Oh, I know what my least favorite moment is.
What?
The reveal that it's River that shoots the Doctor in the astronaut suit.
Oh, yeah?
Because there was absolutely no reason that they needed to do it that way or that it had to be River. When you and I talked it over, and it just didn't make sense. They could have killed him a number of times and in a number of ways. And the way they set it up, there wasn't a reason why this was the way it had to go, other than they wanted to set up a mystery that would last and be really mystifying. And the reason it's mystifying is because it doesn't make any fucking sense. And it was also a huge disservice to River as a character and was just overall kind of insulting. It just really felt like a waste of something that they were pretending was interesting, but was actually just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, that was just some Stephen Moffat shit.
So that will be, I think, my least favorite because it's one thing for things to not make sense, but when it's River and she's somebody that I've actually grown attached to, and it doesn't make sense, and it's a whole season ramping up to this, it just feels extra infuriating. So I think that'll be my least favorite one. Trying to think about other favorites because everything is involving Donna mostly. I already talked about Midnight, but that whole episode is just so wild, especially when we watched the making of.
Yeah.
That really, the work that they put into it was just unreal. This show is so weird. They'll put that kind of work into shit, but then they'll have plots that don't fucking add up. I don't know how those two kinds of work ethics go together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just really don't get it. How can you, on the one hand, be willing to just, go through these sound edits and memorizations and shit, and then it's just we'll just drop this whole plot thread and not come back to it. I just don't understand how they coexist on the same show. Okay, so let's see. Next question is from Debbie. Are you curious about the Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who series, especially now you are watching Broadchurch? I am curious. Have you watched any of that?
Yes, I've watched 4 or 5 episodes.
Didn't really love it? I feel like I remember you saying that. It might have been last episode we were talking about it.
She's good. It's a problem that every new Doctor has where they haven't quite figured out, you know, it's a fresh regeneration and they're acting sort of wacky.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they wouldn't do that. Because if a Doctor changes and they are this whole new person, but we're supposed to understand that they're still the same person they were, maybe with some different aspects, why did they need to spend an entire episode not understanding who they are? So her first episode was her just not even really knowing who she is at all. And so I didn't like that. I liked her companions, but it just didn't, the writing just, it didn't grab me. And it's unfortunate because the showrunner is, I believe, the same showrunner as Broadchurch.
Oh, okay.
So obviously, and he had been a writer on Doctor Who, and he can tell a story. So I don't know why none of that sort of leaked over. There was this Rosa Parks episode that was pretty good.
Yeah, I had heard about that. I was honestly, if we had kept going, I was like nervous about that one.
It was pretty good. It wasn't.
Yeah, it was the sort of thing that I was like, it could be moving or it could be done in like a really like this was for white people way. And I was a little bit concerned whether that was going to be the case and how I would react to it, you know?
I don't remember it feeling as a pat on the back for white people. And I didn't feel like it was exploitative either of like the memory of Rosa Parks. She was kind of a badass in it and not like a, you know, superhero kicking ass kind of badass, but like standing up for herself and being a strong person. And I thought that was a really nice way to portray her.
Also with the fact that like it turns out she was like a plant because another girl had actually done the thing first.
I don't think they touched on that.
Yeah, and that's always been something where I feel like weird about it because I want to address it, but I also don't want to try and take away from like what she did because she was still taking a huge risk. But they also chose somebody who was like lighter skinned and more palatable, which is just, you know, upsetting in its ways. But
and then there was this one episode with like these giant spiders, and it was another one of those sort of feel bad about the harming of a creature who's just trying to live episodes, except that there were giant spiders. So a lot of people had like Jason's sister was like, I couldn't look at it.
Yeah.
And I'm not freaked out by giant spiders. Giant spiders in a movie, that does nothing to freak me out.
Okay.
They're way too big to even have the normal thing about spiders that makes me want to like throw up. But it is like, oh, you're killing these things, and it is making them make this horrible, sad noise, and I don't want that.
Ooh. Yeah, that's sad.
Because I care about animals. So now you're just like, it's another space whale thing.
Fucking space whale. There goes another least favorite moment. I don't think I've ever been as angry covering something other than like the finale of Penny Dreadful, maybe the finale of Dark. But that really got me. It was like the combo of, oh, you're going to tell this story, which is fucked up, and you're going to like expect us to take away completely the wrong conclusion from it, which is just like you displaying your ignorance and insulting me, and I won't have it. But in terms of my curiosity for the Jodie Whittaker season, I am curious in a really vague way, where I would be interested in going and checking out like the synopses of the plots on Wikipedia.
There's There's an episode that people were talking about in the Whovian group that I think it's the next one from when I stopped watching.
Okay.
That takes place in India in the 50s or something, and sort of touches on like the colonialism and that kind of thing that people keep saying like this one was really good, and that was the only episode in the Jodie Whittaker run that anybody was like, yeah, that one was really good. So I was curious about going and watching that one and maybe checking out the one where Jack comes back. Mm-hmm. And I can do that and let you know, like, yeah, you might want to check it out.
Okay.
At some point. Like, we're not going to cover it or anything, but yeah, if you want to get a good idea of, like, what she's like in the role, because she has a completely different energy, obviously, than she has in Broadchurch. It really shows the kind of range that she has as an actress, because it's so different. It might be worth, and I believe that one of the people in that episode is the girl they cast as Inej.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
It's either the girl they cast as Inej or the girl they cast as Zoya, but I think it's Inej. So that's another reason I was curious, just to see what that actress is like once that show comes out and I have an idea of who she is. I thought of another thing that's memorable.
Ooh, what's that?
Rory in his pants.
Oh my God. Right. It took me a minute to remember that British pants is underwear.
Yes. Rory in his little pants. Thank you.
I'm trying to think if there was any time where, because I know that there had to be moments where I was like, ooh, so-and-so looked pretty good here. But other than that, and like River's husband in this episode,
or when
I'm not remembering it.
When the Ninth Doctor was chained up with the Dalek and you couldn't stop talking about his neck.
The neck. He did have a good neck.
David Tennant's hair is always memorable.
Yeah, I mean, that is just his hair is the thing.
I know, he's just got really good hair. So does Matt Smith.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where I'm like, I hesitate to give him credit because it's just an accident of genetics, but also so is somebody's neck. So I guess that's fine. Yeah, I think, I'm trying to think of other like moments that I really enjoyed, because I know that they were out there, that there were a couple of moments that I was like, oh, that was really funny. But once I try and like stop and think about them, because they were all these little sort of in context jokes.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I don't want you guys to think that I just hated my entire time covering this, because that's not how it was for me. But it was really like, I just kept really trying to like sit on my like qualms and irritations and let things play out and give it some time. And knowing the whole time that this was what I was afraid of. So I just felt like so much anxiety, because I felt like I was letting everyone down in exactly the way I was afraid of letting them down. You know? Yeah.
Well, I think you gave it a lot more, what's the right way to say this? More chances than I expected you to. Mm-hmm. And as upset as some people may be, it's not like they weren't aware that this could be coming. Listening to at least this whole season 8.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that we had a good thing to say about almost any of it. Mm-hmm. Except for Flatline. And even that, there's still questions, but it was a cool concept.
Yeah.
And I keep reminding people, you guys have been coming at us since episode 1, asking her not to quit. So it's not like you didn't have this in your head either. This isn't a typical Natasha show. I really wanted to get to Matt Smith, and I figured, I knew how I dropped off. Figured there's probably a reason for that. I wasn't wrong.
I resisted covering it because it's not like nobody had asked for it, because I just had seen like 2 episodes and it just felt distinctly not for me. And I mean, I will be honest too. I am a little bit infuriated that y'all seem to like predict also that I wouldn't like it in a lot of ways. Like even Jamie was like, you lasted longer than I expected, which what is that? You went into it knowing that it was like, well,
I didn't.
She's probably going to hate it.
I went into it hoping that you would find it so goofy that it would be enjoyable, because that's pretty much how I looked at it. It's like, this show is just such a weird, goofy show. It should not be taken seriously, and I've never taken it seriously. I was hoping that that's how you would view it too, but what I learned is, in order to discuss it in the way that we have to for this show, you can't overlook the stuff that I was just able to overlook and just continue enjoying. So I was hoping that you wouldn't be like, this is so fucking stupid, what are you making me do? That you'd be like, okay, it's got charm, it's goofy, it's very like, it's popcorn shows. Mm-hmm. It's not sustenance. But it couldn't sustain that when we have to like actually talk about the plot, and you're like, oh, well, why did this happen? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. It's stupid.
Yeah, I think that's something that I like, as the show gets more popular, Unspoiled at large, I'll get more and more people asking me like to cover certain things that I'm like, if you really have been listening to the show, you have to know that's not going to go well. Like, I've had more than one person request that I cover the Pokemon show. What do you think I am going to bring to the discussion about the Pokemon show? What exactly, like, I just really want to know. What is the expectation there? Because I am not trying to say that the show is garbage. I'm just like, the kind of coverage that I do, I just really don't know why somebody would think that would be a good fit for Unspoiled specifically. Not that it doesn't deserve coverage on any podcast, but just for the type of thing that the way that I approach things and talk about them. I find it shocking that anybody would even want that. It's not even the request. It's that, do you think that it feels like you've like been listening to a different show? Like, was this sent to me by mistake kind of thing? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But then that said, like, you know, I'm covering One Piece and it's just so insane. It's so insane. And it works because that is 100% what it is. And that's what people want to hear, is my reaction to how completely off the wall it is. And I think that's part of it, is just, I am willing to completely let things slide because the show isn't interested in, like I said, taking itself very seriously. But yeah, I don't know. I feel bad. This whole thing I was so worried about this happening, and I just feel bad that it wound up going this way, even though I know that there are some people who still enjoyed listening, even though we were tearing things apart by the end. But like, there were a fair amount of people who came out of the woodwork and were like, oh yeah, I stopped listening a while ago because it was just not fun. Yep. And I'm just like, wow, I've been doing this, like, you know, committing time to this, thinking that it was still something. But a lot of folks had already dropped it, which was what I was worried about, that I was going to be so unfun because I didn't like it, that we just weren't going to have the listenership. So, you know, I know myself, and I have to learn to like trust that gut instinct on how I am reacting to something and be like, no, I know you guys want it, but I promise you don't really, not really. And because I only have so much energy and time, and I want to dedicate it to things that I enjoy, and that you guys are going to be excited to hear about because I'm having such a good time. It's just...
It's more fun for everybody if the people doing the show are having a good time. Mm-hmm. And we tried to have a good time while we were not enjoying the material.
Right.
And even still, we weren't able to really be so funny about it that people didn't, I'm not going to listen to this.
So
and we gave it a lot. It's a lot. How many episodes have we done?
I mean, how many episodes of this show for through 8 seasons?
I don't know. Is it 13 every season? I don't know. Plus Christmas specials. I'd have to look at the episode number on Spreaker, but it's not
probably
like we gave it one season and quit.
I think that's probably what people understand the least is how much time goes into doing this show.
Yeah.
So to them, it's just like, well, just cover it, whatever. And it's like this is hours out of every week.
Yeah.
112 episodes, not including this one, according to Spreaker.
See, that's a lot.
Yeah. The first episode went up on March 5th. Nope, lied. September 23rd, 2018.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. 2.5 years.
Wow.
Nearly. So
I hadn't even been promoted yet. I was still a supervisor. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, we gave this a lot of chances.
Yeah.
I did. You already knew a lot of what was coming already, but
I thought, I don't know. I've talked about it. I think we did the best we could, and it just, as it turns out, this just isn't the show for you. Mm-hmm. This show doesn't hold up to this kind of deep diving criticism. And that's okay.
And I'm also, between this and Dark Tower, I'm making it a new rule that I'm not starting something with a co-host who hasn't finished the thing. Because that was what happened with Dark Tower. Miles got super excited about it because he'd read the first 4 books and he hadn't finished it and he didn't realize how much it completely just falls apart. So by the end, we were both incredibly angry. We were both just disgusted because Stephen King really clearly lost interest in his own series and just phoned it in so hard. So, yeah, that is going to have to be a new rule. It's got to be done first so that we're sure that there isn't just going to be a lot of yelling in the last few episodes.
Well, I guess there's no real guarantee that won't happen, even if it is finished.
That's true. But, they can, a co-host who gets to the end and realizes that the end is so bad that it really ruins the rest of it, will tell you, never mind, we don't want to cover this after all. It's not worth it.
See, I would put Penny Dreadful up there as it was totally worth covering. It just shit the bed right at the end. But everything else was really good.
I don't regret Penny Dreadful. I don't even regret Dark Tower, really. But I'll tell you one that I do regret is Dark. And I feel bad because it's Rashawn liked the ending. She liked the finale. And so did Ryan Reisman, I think.
Jason liked it too.
These are people that I generally trust their opinions. But I cannot disagree more. I thought the finale was just so weak and so nonsensical and just such a complete, they were literally saying lines about how you can't let go of this person that you love. And then the next scene is them shooting that person. Which I don't know how in the fuck you can say they don't know how to let go when they're willing to kill them. Clearly they are fine with it. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I asked him about it the other night because he said something about how I haven't watched it. And I was like, yeah, I'm a little nervous now, though. Because apparently, it ends pretty poorly. And he's like, it gets pretty weird.
It's not the weirdness. It was the sort of thing where it felt like... they were trying to do too many things at once, and abruptly decided that they were going to have this be the final episode when really there was too many balls in the air. And then they tried to boil it down to something very simplistic when it had been so complex that it just didn't really work. But that's me anyway. Nobody cares. Nobody's here for dark. But yeah, I agree with you on Penny Dreadful. Like, that was one of those things where I really wonder what the fuck happened. It feels like a prank.
They were told it was not going to continue, and so I think the writer / showrunner was like, fine, fuck it, and just decided to blow the whole thing up.
Just ouch. Like, I just don't understand the impulse to do that to your own property.
I don't know that for sure. I just know that, like, I think Showtime announced that it wasn't going to be getting any more seasons while they were, like, making the show.
Oh, wow.
And it just feels like none of that finale made any sense.
If you guys ever want to hear me just really angry, that finale is really the one.
I haven't even listened to that episode because I'm like, yeah, I get it. I don't need to hear it. I was very disappointed as well. And then the weird sequel that Showtime did last summer that was also on Hulu with Natalie Dormer. We watched the first episode and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, she's beautiful and she was really good in it, but I didn't know what story they were trying to tell. It had Nazis and like Mexican lore, and LA freeways being created. I was so confused. What? So confused.
Well, so, I mean, and I don't want it to sound like I regret covering Doctor Who either. It was just such an exercise in anxiety for me. It's not like the content that makes me feel like I wish I hadn't. It's my own preoccupation and concern the whole time. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that sort of, I feel like I was just, I don't know how I could make myself relax and if that would have changed the way I watched it.
So outside of Spoil Me, where people are actually paying for you to cover something, and most of the time people are recommending things that are really good, are you going to sort of factor in the listener suggestions of like, please cover this, please cover this? Because you said a lot of people for a long, long time were asking you to cover Doctor Who. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely factor it in because I want to know that something's going to get listened to. There's no point in me covering something that's like so niche that nobody's going to, especially for a free show, you know, Spoil Me. Somebody has commissioned me to watch that. So if it's niche, it doesn't matter. But with a free show, I'm putting effort into something that is going out there free of charge to try and get people to become patrons, really, is like the overall goal. So the more listeners that I can get, the better.
Okay.
Which is part of why I agreed to Doctor Who, because I know the fan base is huge. But I was also worried that the fan base is huge and that they would be very disappointed and then never come back to Unspoiled ever again. Which I bet happened. I am 100% certain that there are people out there who were just like, yeah, this Unspoiled is not for me. They're taking this too seriously. And, you know, I know that I'm going to be losing some patrons from it. That always happens. Anytime I finish any show, I lose patrons. But, like, you know, I would not be surprised if there were people who... I mean, that happened with the fucking Game of Thrones. When we got into the 5th season and I just became completely livid, a lot of people jumped ship because they felt like we were no fun to listen to because we hated the show so much, which is fair. But that was also something that we started off on board with and wasn't finished, which is part of also me feeling like I don't want to cover stuff that isn't finished yet.
Well, you've been saying that for a while. You should probably start sticking to it.
I know. It's one of those that's when enough people are asking, I'm like, well, even if it's not good, but, you know, I really underestimated how much they could drive that into the ground. And I'm also sort of worried about it with Westworld because, like, there's another season coming, and fitting that in when it's currently on the air and we already have 2 shows on our schedule. I don't know how we're going to do that. We may have to just take a break from something like we did last year, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely take people's opinions into account and whether they would listen to it and how excited they are about it. But I won't lie. I will definitely be trusting everybody's opinion less. Just so you guys all know.
So, do you have, not for us necessarily, but just in general, do you have sort of a backlist of, like, these are options for the future?
Not really officially. I have, like, some titles that I have some that are currently running that I've been sort of keeping an eye on because they have had such a response that I wonder, can it be sustained and will it stay good? I have some things that I'm watching that I'm like, if I could find somebody on Spoiled to do this with me, I might want to. But I don't have anything that's like, the one thing that has been asked for a few times is for me to cover the Hunger Games with Rashawn. And that's been like kind of at the front, and I am not that interested in doing that anymore. A couple years ago I might have been, but I feel like the more distance I get between me and Hunger Games, the more I realize how like sort of elementary it is.
Yeah, I don't think that there's enough there.
Good. Yeah.
I've always felt that way, though. You guys have been talking about this for a long time. Like, you've brought it up ever since, early Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. And I've always kind of felt like there's really not a lot to talk about in those books.
Yeah.
They're a fun read, but there's not a lot to dig into.
Yeah, and like a lot of the stuff that I really think is excellent is also heavy. And it's tough because I don't want to like I don't want to always cover stuff that's going to require conversations about our fucking political landscape and racism and misogyny, but also that's like the best stuff that engages with those sorts of things usually, you know? So I always grapple with that, how much labor emotionally I am interested in taking on. And it's just, yeah, so I don't really have like a list. Is there something that you were thinking of other than The Expanse?
No. The Expanse is that's my number one choice to cover with you because I know that you know very little about it.
Right, yeah.
And I just finished the 6th book, and they're all just so good and so well written and smart.
How many are there?
There's 8 right now, and there's a 9th one coming out. It's the last one.
Okay.
And it is coming out this year. So if it's something that we really consider doing by the time we do it, I will have a definitive, like, yeah, it ends really well.
Okay.
I can't imagine it not ending well considering how thought out it has been up to this point. Jason's reading the 7th book, and every day he's like, this book is fucking bonkers. And, like, he can't put it down. But there's not a lot that, between the two of us, we consume so much media. That there's not a lot that one of us is spoiled on and the other one isn't, but also isn't really aware of it.
Right.
It's really hard. And if you can think of something that I'm not versed on, I would be willing to consider that too. I get frustrated being the unspoiled one because I don't like to wait. I want to watch right now. I'm very impatient. But I did it with The Punisher.
Right. Yeah, I think too, like I mentioned that somebody wanted me to make One Piece a main show and how I was like, I'm not going to do anything that was spoil me. I'm not going to make it into a regular show. But I will admit to being incredibly tempted with the Cradle series. I won't because it's not finished. But it has just been such an unmitigated joy to read that it truly, I want to share it with every fucking person who will read it. Like, you guys, listen, if you're looking for audiobooks, if you're looking for a regular book to read, and you want something escapist that's fun with characters who are good-hearted and interesting, with a magical system that's really riveting, and it's just super fun, I cannot recommend the Cradle series by Will White enough. I haven't had such a great time reading anything, just sheer great time, in recent memory. I can't even, like, think of something.
See, now that's something, I haven't started reading those yet.
Mm-hmm.
But you've already covered it.
And it's not done.
And
so,
it's
like,
not
even
done.
if I were going to do it, it's years away.
Right.
You know? He'd have to and I don't know how many books it's going to be, because we're up to, like, 8, and there's no end in sight. He's not even close to done with, like, where I think the character's going. So I have a feeling it's going to be the sort of thing that's, like, 18 books long. Yeah. It's just all sort of, then there's things like Lord of the Rings that people have also mentioned, and I'm just like, whomst can I find who doesn't know what happens in that? It's like trying to find a second Rashawn for Harry Potter.
I mean, it's probably even harder, because the Lord of the Rings movies were incredibly popular.
Yeah.
With all
it's
kinds
just so
of people.
ubiquitous at this point. Like, although, so was Harry Potter, and I can't believe that she didn't know the shit she didn't know.
Harry Potter wasn't popular with all types of people. It was popular with kids. It was popular with people who had read the books, and casual people who were like, yeah, sure, I'll watch Harry Potter. But
filthy casuals.
Lord of the Rings, like, the third one won an Oscar. Like, those movies were humongous with everyone. So it's different. Because I knew nothing about Lord of the Rings when I went to see the first movie. Not a thing. Mm-hmm. I had done a play of The Hobbit when I was in high school, and whatever we were doing, they acted like the dwarves were the fucking 7 dwarves. Like, the costuming was terrible. I didn't understand what the play was while we were doing it. So none of it really stuck with me, and I don't think I even realized that The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings were connected in any way. So when I went to see that movie, I went in pretty blind and was blown away by it, and then read the books. But it was nothing I'd ever even considered reading before. That's the first fantasy book I ever read, because I'm not a big fantasy person in that respect.
Yeah.
So I just think that those movies hit a sweet spot. Plus, it was right after 9/11, so everybody was looking for something that was going to make them feel something other than fear.
Yeah.
So it was just different. It would be way harder to find somebody who knows nothing about Lord of the Rings than to find somebody who knows nothing about Harry Potter.
Yeah, so I guess that's my answer. So if you guys have, like, suggestions, I'm open, but just know that it's really tough to find stuff that anybody is totally unspoiled on. So don't take it personally if I'm just like, yeah, no, sorry, can't do that one. Because that's going to happen. Yeah.
Well, that's why I asked you about Krista and I possibly covering Shadow and Bone, because I know she knows nothing. I know you've read the books. Mm-hmm. So, and I've read the book. So, like, you and I covering it is impossible at this point.
Right.
I didn't know that somebody was talking about commissioning it, though. So that is what it is. But
I don't know if they will. They were talking, but there's no, like, open slots right now. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things. And also, again, like, it not being a finished series.
Right.
It's one thing for Spoil Me. But I wouldn't make it like a regular show for me.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I never really thought about it in that way. Like, I know that I believe it's already gotten a second season. I'm not positive about that. I do believe it's going to be good enough that they're going to go on with it. Mm-hmm. But who knows how long it's going to take. I mean, they filmed this way last year before COVID. It took forever to come out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd been hearing about it for ages.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super excited. And this just means I get to just watch it and not have to.
There's that too, yeah.
You know, like, I was going to watch the whole thing and then have to cover it week by week and have her wait until we're, you can watch the next episode now kind of thing. But I'm happy to just download it right into my brain next weekend.
All right, I'm going to say hi to new patrons, and then I guess we can wrap up. Unless there's anything else that you wanted to add.
No, I mean, I want to thank the audience for who stuck with us, and just know, like, I don't I don't hate Doctor Who. I really enjoyed doing this. I wish that you had enjoyed it more. But I have no complaints about getting to cover something with you, and I think that we had fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I will admit there is something vindicating about getting to the end of this and you being as pissed as I am. You know, if you had just been like completely on board the whole time and really didn't understand what my issue was,
it would have made
I don't know
you
what I would
question
have
my
done.
taste.
Well, I don't trust your taste already.
Oh my God, you're so mean.
Listen, you liked the ending of Lost.
I do.
And that, for me, is one of the worst endings of any show I've ever seen.
I
Bar none. It's unmitigated.
I can defend it.
I am sure you can.
Here's the thing.
I don't buy it.
This is quick. I didn't watch Lost for the mysteries. I didn't really care. I mean, the mysteries were fine. I didn't care about them. That's not what kept me watching. It's not what consumed me or what made me love the show. I watched the show for the people, for the characters. And in that respect, I felt like that ending was really beautiful because of the characters. That's my defense. I also just really love the show. But all the mystery stuff, and Chris and I talked about this when we covered it, that stuff, like, people getting mad about not getting an answer about this or that didn't matter to me. So, what bothered people about the ending also didn't matter to me. Because I loved what it gave me. I thought it was beautiful.
I mean, it's fine for it to not matter to you, but the show made it matter. The show implied that it mattered, and that's what I get angry about, is that it feels like they want us to not care about something they told us to care about, because it grew inconvenient that we cared about it.
I don't know, I just never really felt that way, so I just viewed it differently.
But
I mean, I have a lot of friends, like, we used to get together to watch Lost, and they quit, and I was like, what is wrong with you? This show's amazing. I was just always on board with it. I just love it.
This is what I'm saying.
Well, I also really like the ending of Battlestar Galactica, and a lot of people hated that too, and I don't get it. Like, what makes you mad about that?
I didn't even hate it. I was just kind of like, oh. Like, it just didn't make an impression on me. Lost made me actively angry. Battlestar Galactica, I was just like, I guess. Like, I just didn't really... I think I wasn't as invested in finding things out, because it wasn't really, for me, that show was able to rely on its characters more. Most of the people on Lost I didn't care about. Oh, that's probably a major part of it too.
Yeah, and
it was just a lot of like, I'm going to run off. Don't run off. I'm running off anyway. Oh, fine.
Don't follow me, Kate. Why are you following me, Kate? I just told you not to follow me, Kate. Yeah, there's a lot of that. I'm glad we did this. I wish that it had ended differently. I wish that, you know, we were still enjoying it as much as a lot of people and going forward just because we were having a great time with it. I'm glad we ended on this episode because this episode feels like a really good place to stop.
Yeah, agreed.
And I hope that we are able to do something else in the future that doesn't make either of us mad.
Same. Agreed. So, new patrons for this week. Hopefully you aren't just leaving now. Christian Burke, Rebecca Robbins, Molly M., Mo, Michael Berry, Shelby Whitehead, Nancy H., Marie Rentascola, and Gwen Aspton all became patrons this week. So welcome to you all, and thank you all so much. I, like I said, hope you're not just leaving now. I'm in the midst of covering Mistborn with Miles, and we just finished Book 2, Well of Ascension, with a live read that was frankly amazing. It was really fun. We did the live read on camera so that people could watch my reactions to what he was saying. And evidently my face does stuff I didn't know about, but it did not disappoint. And that is for $5 and up patrons. And then me and Rashawn do Unsober for $20 and up patrons. And we just found out, I don't know if you noticed this, Jamie, but there's a new season of The Circle out.
Yes.
So that's going to be our next Unsober.
Are you guys going to watch
about the second season of The Circle?
When is the next Unsober? Because I heard they only dropped 4 episodes.
Oh my God, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's rude.
I heard that there was only 4 episodes released yesterday, and like I don't know, are they planning on doing it week to week after that or what? Netflix doesn't normally do that.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know. Well, I was going to say our next one was going to be on the 24th, but now with this news, I mean, it's still going to be on the 24th, but it'll be a different subject.
Make sure you look into it and see, make sure the whole season has dropped before you do it, because God, The Circle, I was talking to Jason about that last night because he was in the Philippines when I watched The Circle, and he's not a big reality show watcher because he works in reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't convince him. Like, no, you don't understand. It's like so joyful. It's such a sweet show, and I'm so excited that it's back. And I'm very curious what this new season's going to be like.
And I hope that they do some new things because we got to, we sort of learn their tricks. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they have new tricks. But yeah, so anyway, that's Unsober is about a different thing. It's twice a month, and we do a different thing every time. And we both just love The Circle so much that we covered the first season a while back, and Rashawn was super excited that we got to talk about it. So she texted me today and was like, bitch, did you see this? And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. We're definitely doing this right. So that's, like I said, for $20 and up patrons. And then for $10, you get a postcard every month. I haven't designed the one for this month yet. I really do need to get on that. But I think it's going to be likes, appendices, dislikes, humanity. Because that was something that Rashawn said about herself on the recent Song of Ice and Fire episode.
I saw people talking about that. I haven't listened yet.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good summary of her. So that works for me.
Did you guys finish the first book?
We have not. We have 2 more episodes to go. 4 more chapters total. Okay.
I wasn't sure because you were talking about appendices, and I was like,
no, she just discovered that there was an appendice for the first time and completely lost her mind. An appendix. Appendices is for plural, right? I
believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a lot of this is the house and this is who they're loyal to.
That's what she likes.
Yeah.
Listen, you won't, her delight at discovering that was there, it's genuine, and it goes on for 10 minutes. So, all right. Is there anything else you want to add?
Nope.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for sticking with us if you did. If you didn't, sorry. But hopefully it wasn't too painful.
Sincere.
Well, sorry, sorry that exactly what I said was going to happen happened. What are you going to do? Not that sorry, because I'm also smug, but I didn't want to be right. And, if you guys have particular episodes that you're I don't know, I think you'd really like this one out of context. I'm not against going and just bouncing around and watching some random ones. I might do that. So feel free to leave that in comments if you have suggestions of just a particular episode that you think would work without context, or even if it needs context, who cares? Whatever. I'll figure it out. And otherwise, keep an eye on your Facebooks and Twitters, because we'll announce if we've decided on something new, and also because there's always new Spoil Me stuff coming out. People choose new titles. I'm going to be starting The Haunting of Hill House in a couple weeks. I'd only seen the first 2 episodes and I remembered absolutely nothing. And I was talking to Candace and she was like, well, fuck. So she commissioned the whole series.
Oh my God.
So we'll see how that goes. I've heard very mixed things about the finale, and a lot of people hated it. Candace really liked it. And so I'm super curious about it. That and Bly Manor and not Bridgerton. Oh my God, Murder Show. Broadchurch. Those are all shows that are heavy enough that I wouldn't have watched them on my own. Mm-hmm. So I'm super grateful for Spoil Me in that case, because I'm it got me to watch something that was very good and deserved to be watched, but I wouldn't have. And so yeah, I'm curious about Haunting of Hill House.
I haven't watched either Hill House or Bly Manor, but I was curious about Bly Manor because I really like Rahul Kohli.
Bly Manor's ending is sort of questionable, but I still found it really fun the whole time. So, most of the time. But yeah, we'll see. So, keep your eyes open for that. And also don't forget to just listen to Song of Ice and Fire and Dresden Files, because those are both really fun. And although Song of Ice and Fire less so lately, because we just got into, some beheadings and grief. But nevertheless, good conversation, I think. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much. We love you. And sometime in the future, we'll see you again. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.